full time. I'm still waiting to hear back from them, but there was this one job that I did get rejected from, which was kind of hilarious. It was like this random warehouse place. I might even show you the email of this. Right, let me just grab it out for you. I won't waste your time too much because we have got, like I said, a plethora of topics. Like, the guests help us levitate between the topics, but this is like a solo episode where I can just talk about anything on the planet. It's kind of crazy. Right, so on here, on the email, it says, "Thank you for applying to the night shift warehouse store person." That's the position. It says position at Bidfood Hamilton Ltd. Unfortunately, Bidfood Hamilton Ltd has moved to the next step in the hiring process, and your application wasn't like this time. But it's because don't have enough work experience. Like, okay, he doesn't have much experience, so we won't accept him. So it's not really hilarious. It's just an interesting thing that's kind of happened.
You are about to experience the James Ramblin' Show, hosted by James Batty.
Hello, welcome back to the James Ramblin' Show for yet another episode. And today's episode, right, just before we get in it, I did the Black Knight review last night, and I did the Air review, and we came off of episode 69. But in today's episode, there is an insane amount of topics we have on the plate tonight. Like, alright, I've got stuff like I've been getting into Doctor Who again recently. I've just came off of I'm doing a Fast and Furious marathon right now because I want to see Fast X, but I don't know how likely that is now. There's that. There's like this whole thing with Miller Lite. There's this whole thing with Dove. There's this whole thing with how I started getting into working out yesterday. There's this whole thing with jobs and what will happen if I get a job, and if I get a job I have to kind of sort the podcast schedule out. Might be going back to Scotland earlier than expected. So there's quite a lot of things here, and I've got a plan for maybe doing a set of episodes about a certain topic, because we've been running into a lot of the same topics recently. And so I'm just gonna personally start off with more of the recent stuff that's happening in my life recently. So yesterday, we'll start off with that, right? So yesterday, I went to the gym because you know how I always go to the sauna. I'm starting a gym journey now. So because I've dropped out of school, right, I can have this opportunity to work out and build up some muscles and stuff like that. And it's the YMCA Recreational Centre, and it was the free trial. Started off with the free trial, and there's a plug back there. If you can see the plug thing back there, it's for an exercise bike. Because at the gym, you go on this exercise bike and stuff like that to warm up, and then I went on these like hoist yourself up machines, so like ooh, ooh, and some it's like your arm and your chest and your legs and all of that stuff. So I did all of those things. Lifted some weights. Did this rowing machine thing. So I was like dun 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 dun. Right. Did all of that stuff. And if you've been following James Armstrong Show, I did talk about working out with Ethan, but it's not really a topic that I talk about a lot on this show. It's not something I talk about, but I want to get into this. And you think to yourself, doing a gym bro seems kind of cringe. Like, oh, I'm gonna do the muscles. It just depends on the way you do it, right? If you just like glorify it and you make it as if it's like some groundbreaking thing. No, it's just for self improvement, really. In the past, I did used to like lift kettlebells in the garage in my house's garage, but other than that, I've been getting into working out, and it is good, and we'll have a journey. So it'll give me something to do while I've dropped out of school, and to follow through with that whole thing. I have been looking for jobs. And one of the jobs I applied for was this Meatworks place and Pack and Save. It's a produce assistant, and both full time. I'm still waiting to hear back from them, but there was this one job that I did get rejected from, which was kind of hilarious. It was like this random warehouse place. I might even show you the email of this. Right, let me just grab it out for you. I won't waste your time too much because we have got, like I said, a plethora of topics. Like, the guests help us levitate between the topics, but this is like a solo episode where I can just talk about anything on the planet. It's kind of crazy, right? So on here, on the email, it says, "Thank you for applying to the night shift warehouse store person." That's the position. It says position at Bidfood Hamilton Ltd. Unfortunately, Bidfood Hamilton Ltd has moved to the next step in the hiring process, and your application wasn't like this time. But it's because don't have enough work experience. Like, okay, he doesn't have much experience, so we won't accept him. So it's not really hilarious. It's just an interesting thing that's kind of happened recently. So I got the job. I've not gotten any jobs yet, but the schedule might be affected by that, about the release of the episodes and things of that nature. But I'll talk about Doctor Who now. If you know me, right, I did TV show episodes, and I've talked about Breaking Bad before, and I've talked about all these kind of other shows on my podcast, on the review show. But Doctor Who, for some reason, hasn't been this show I've talked about, because it's a show that I loved like 10 years ago. Then I've been wanting to rewatch it. I've been wanting to rewatch Doctor Who for 10 years or something now, and the only way I could watch it was through the BBC iPlayer, but I don't have a TV license because it's a UK thing, and I'm not in the UK, so was that. But I found it on a website called If Maybe's been watching it, and I've been rewatching the Christopher Eccleston run and the David Tennant run, currently on that right now, and it's a good show. But I do think that David Tennant is a bit of a better actor. He's got more charisma, and especially with how in one of the episodes he specifically has this reference to a love interest from the really old Doctor Who from the 60s and 70s, and there's like this like canine dog that's from that show from the 70s, so he's referenced that. So I think like David Tennant actually cared about the franchise a bit more, but Christopher Eccleston didn't want to be typecast, and there was all this behind the scenes drama. But there is interesting things that go on with David Tennant's Doctor, because you've got this episode about this weird like gas mask kids like, "Where's the mummy? Where's the mummy?" And it's like, "Exterminate, exterminate." You saw these Daleks, and the nature of Doctor Who's so good because it's just so self aware, and it realizes it's so over the top and insane. But I'm not here to kind of analyze it. But I generally think I'm just watching it casually, and it's hard for me because I'm doing a review show all the time, so it's kind of hard for me to be like, "Oh man, I'm just having a good time with this show." But yeah, so Doctor Who, I was watching Doctor Who, I've been working out, there's that, but I will talk about the Fast and Furious franchise. I think I should dive into that since I just came off of like watching the fourth one. So I'm not someone who's been very into this franchise. Fast X came out recently. I was thinking to myself, okay, maybe I could get into this franchise, see what it's really about. So this franchise consists of like cars and heists and all this stuff. But I've heard that it goes so over the top in these recent films like 8, 9 and 10. But Fast 1, Too Fast, Too Furious, Tokyo Drift and Fast and Furious, I think the fourth one's called. Right. My thoughts on that is, I think the first one is probably the best one. It's just fun and simple. The second one is okay, I guess. Like, it's watchable. There is Paul Walker and Vin Diesel in this franchise, I think, and but it's just okay. Like Fast and Furious 2 is okay. Fast and Furious 3 is like Tokyo Drift. There's not really Vin Diesel and Paul Walker in it, and it's just like they're in Japan and they're drifting, but there's just more cars and more cars and more cars. The fourth movie brings the characters back, Vin Diesel and all that, and then it's just more cars, more cars, and so really, pretty much, the Fast and Furious franchise is like the FIFA games of cinema or McDonald's. Are producing the same old thing, and these movies make a lot of money at the box office. So no matter how quality they are, how like they're not even deep and philosophical type of movies, no matter how the quality is, they're just gonna make that. They're just gonna make the movies anyway because they know people are gonna show up in droves and stuff like that. So there's all of that, and I'm pretty sure that Tokyo Drift is the lowest grossing movie in the entire franchise, and the critics hated it. I wouldn't go too far to say it's the worst one. It's just, and that's what I kind of feel about the franchise right now. And I might be watching Fast 5, 6, 7, and 8, and 9. Who will see? We'll see how that turns out. I don't know if I do a Fast X review or not. So you've got that. you've got all this stuff. You've got all that stuff. Definitely. Another thing to talk about here is that I might be going back to Scotland a bit earlier than I expected because of how I've dropped out. Right, because of how I've dropped out. The plan was to go back to Scotland in November because that's when the exams are. But now we're going back maybe July or August, whatever. I know usually I wouldn't want to reveal kind of personal information like this, but since I've made you up to date with the whole dropping out situation, stuff like that, it's kind of made it clear that I should bring it up. And if you see like a different setup or a different backdrop, then that's why, because we in Scotland. So we've gotten through those topics. So let's get into the Miller Lite. Let's get into some Miller Lite and Dove. Right, you know me, I've started to sort of talk about more of these relevant subject matters on the podcast. Like we talked about the whole crazy thing about the anti-trans Posey Parker, the whole Nicola Sturgeon, all the freedom of speech stuff we talked about. But Miller Lite is such a weird thing because if I never really talked about Bud Light, but it's like these companies, these beer companies, trying to say that women should be the ones to be the up front and center with this beer instead of men, when men are the very giant target audience, and it's really weird how this has happened. It's just this weird marketing campaign. I don't know, it's just an advert, but it's just a very weird thing. Like if you're trying to as a business, you want to make money. We just saw that with Fast and Furious, right? We saw this Fast and Furious. No matter the quality, they know there's an audience. They know there's a target audience for this, so they want to make sure that they get what they want. But here, though, you're just like, okay, just despite abandoning the rules of beer, where the men aren't supposed to drink the beer, it's supposed to be women at the helm, yeah. And in the Miller Lite ad, they're all like, "Oh, the male gaze is trash, whatever. The male gaze sucks. Men shouldn't like women with their bikinis out or whatever." And this woman who was the ad, apparently a female comedian, said, like we've seen her on social media doing all these weird poses and stuff like that. So yeah, there's that. And there's also the Dove ad. This Dove ad is really weird because it's like this animated video game character, I believe. And what it does is it shows you this woman, this really like overweight woman, and you see her, and then you just see her like, oh, women. It's like 74% of women are underrepresented in video games or something like that. It's really weird, and it's Dove, like a soap, but a soap business is promoting stuff like that. It's just really weird. You know what I mean? And I know I'm gonna be getting a job. I know I'm gonna be getting a job. I've got to be careful what I'm saying because they're going to do those background checks on the stuff I'm saying online and things of that nature. But it's just really weird to me how this stuff is becoming so more relevant day to day life. So there's all that stuff definitely, but I do want to talk about how, right, we've talked about Indiana Jones 5 quite a lot on the podcast recently. I've talked about how I'm unsure about the trailers, I'm unsure about if this movie's going to be good or not, but the critics came out and they saw it early and they were saying it's like a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes or something like that. So it's going to be interesting to see if this movie is actually any good. I'm very unsure about it, and I've seen some reviews on it. I've heard like one of the critics saying it wasn't as bad as the Temple of Doom or whatever, the Crystal Skull. So it's like 50%, and it said that it was like 2.5 hours long. And if it's 2.5 hours long and it drags out, that's going to be very annoying. Because you don't, like, if a movie goes on and on and on and on, it's just not going to feel fun. And Indiana Jones is really old, and I think they're just going to be milking it, the cash cow at this point. Let's be honest here. Let's be honest with ourselves. So I'm just going to try and look this up here and show you, read to you maybe some reviews. Kind of been jumping on the bandwagon with these few topics with Miller Lite and the Dove and this, but they're just kind of cool, not cool topics, but they give me something to discuss for the podcast, I guess. Alright, okay. I'm trying to find it. Alright, 50. The audience haven't got their thoughts in yet because this movie comes out on June 30th. So one critic, where was it? Da 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 da. have to scroll down now because I think more critics have actually seen it. Where is it? Right, it says one of the critics are saying the good news is that it's not as poor as Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. The bad news is that it's not much better. So someone is saying that it's not as bad as the Crystal Skull, whatever, but it's just not as good. Right. So that's not very good. So we'll have to see. I will watch it for the review, but if I potentially could be in Scotland by then. We'll see though. Might be going there in July, something like that. So there's all that stuff. Let me see what else there is to talk about. Oh wait, you know how we talked about how Disney Plus lost like what was it, 4 million subscribers or whatever. There was this like Star Wars Starcruiser that's gonna get shut down in September this year, and it is one of the weirdest things ever because it doesn't have Darth Vader in it. It has like these weird characters, and you have to pay all this money and a lot of money for 48 hours, and it's just insane. It's just weird to me that Star Wars, the people who are running Star Wars now in Disney, they're doing all this stuff, got nothing to do with Star Wars now. They're just trying to milk the heck out of it and do whatever. Right, so let's see. It's called the Disney Star Wars. Was it Star Wars Land Cruiser? Was it? I can't even remember the name of it. That's kind of not the Land Cruiser, the Galactic Star Cruiser to close. Wait, it says Disney World's costly Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser to close in late September. That's a blimmin' mouthful, don't you tell? No, no, no. My God, oh my God. It says here, Disney World's Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser, a 2-day hotel experience, is closing. Its final voyage will take place in late September. The experience has earned some of the highest guest satisfaction ratings in the history of Walt Disney World, and a Thea Award for Outstanding Achievement in the Themed Parks Entertainment Speed. Oh my God, so many fucking words right now, but it's just a 2-day hotel experience. So you have to stay in there for 2 days straight. But there's just like, it's not Darth Vader, it's not like any of the original characters from the original trilogy. So it's a weird choice to say the least. But you just see Disney failing, and just seeing Disney fail has been kind of funny lately because of Mandalorian Season 3 and how much of a freaking shit show that was. Tell me about that right now. You get all of that around there. But that's just crazy to see this happening. I probably won't even go into that Land Cruiser, the Star Cruising ship or whatever the fuck it's called, man. I'm not gonna go in there at all. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. So these past few topics have been and it's been an interesting mix here. We've got in stuff like working out and all of that. But I do want to talk about, that was just an interesting thing how we talked about Dove, and then we were talking about the Dove thing, and we were talking about working out before. But I did actually have this hot dog. I had this hot dog yesterday, and it was pretty good. Like, it was like, we've talked about food before, but it's got like this peppery taste to it. There's all of that stuff. It was quite enjoyable, and I didn't get McDonald's or anything. Kind of sick of that. The place is called Downlow. It's good for what it is and stuff. So there's that. Oh man, you can already tell we've been talking about a lot of stuff on the podcast today. What the heck? I never thought we would even get to 70 episodes, let alone 69, but so the last kind of thing I do want to discuss on the show today, or maybe not the last thing, actually, let's talk about Breaking Bad again. Right, I did watch Breaking Bad recently, and I kid you not, I think this show is getting very good now. Like, I'm up to almost season 4. I'm gonna be taking a break now, but there's this really good cliffhanger at the end of season 3, and it is getting very good. I'm considering even doing an episode 50 review for it. I don't know yet, because I'm gonna take a while to watch this, because I want to really savour it. because Breaking Bad is just getting very good. You get to see what one of these villains really showcase what they're made of. You get to see that. You get to see what Jesse and Walt have to do. They either have to continue production or have to go after these people. Oh, and there's also this Fly episode, which is apparently the most hated episode. And I'm like, this is pretty fun. It's like a filler episode. Doesn't relate to the whole Hank and Gus storyline. But to say the least, I did have a good time with it. It's very fun, and you get to see like Walt's attention to detail for flies and making sure that the product I'm creating isn't going to get ruined by flies contaminating it. So there's all of that. But in the next few weeks, I'm planning. This is my big plan, boys. Right, I'm planning to do a history kind of deep dive. Gonna try it, do something a bit different for the podcast because a lot of the topics we've been discussing recently and then over the past couple of months, few months, whatever, have been quite repetitive, have been quite the same old, same old. So we'll talk about history and dive into that, and maybe make it more well informed and more interest, more like kind of like not as like fun, like just kind of just more like you can learn more things as you're doing it, not just having something fun to tune into. So somehow, some way, I thought this episode was gonna go on for like 49 minutes because of the amount of topics that I have talked about. I've talked about like what I talked about in this episode could have been saved for 7 episodes. Like there was so much we talked about tonight, and good thing we're still going at it. Like I never thought we'd get to 70 episodes, let alone like 69 or episode 50. So other than that, really, I'll see you next week for episode 71, and I'll see you for a bit of that history stuff we're going to be finally tapping into. And I haven't been doing the Scotland stuff, but I might try and talk about Scotland when I'm back there because I'll have more knowledge about it, and I'll have more knowledge, and it'll be easier to talk about when I'm actually in the country. It'll be easier to talk about the culture and stuff like that. So other than that, really, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the James Rambling Show. We're still going at it somehow, some way. So yeah, kind of been repeating myself all episode, but yeah, bye. Hold on, come on. Bye.